Welcome back to the Power Up with Keith Withrow show. As we continue with the Trauma of the Black Family series, today, Keith and Dr. Torre shed light on the trauma of the black man.
Do you realize what men consider love? Respect.
And it's biblical. That's biblical.
You can tell me you love me all day.
But what about when you've been disrespectful? What about when you've been disrespectful? And
that's something different.
And the heat is on.
If you're being disrespectful, then you will probably get some disrespect back.
Okay.
But there are limits to this thing.
That's what I thought was going. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah, like
Now,
there's ways of having discussions.
So you think black?
You can even have an argument without just getting downright disrespectful.
You think black women take it too far?
Do they? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Power Up with Keith Withrow show, and I'm Keith Withrow. We said on the last episode we were going to come back with some great content, and I brought back one of my personal friends, my behavioral specialist and life coach, Dr. Torre Wiley. We talked about it before. We're about to hit you in the mouth with some good stuff. Welcome back, Dr. Torre.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. This time we have some real power-packed subject matter for you today. We're going to talk about the black man, in which I just happen to be one. So I will consider myself a specialist in this area.
Absolutely.
But we're going to talk about some of the things that have traumatized us in our history, some of the things that we struggle with as black men, some of the things that black men will not discuss, and some of the things that we struggle with. I always talking about on this show about how we being transparent. Transparency is the gateway to being healed. And I think that this show will be something that can benefit everybody, not just the men, but women as well, because you can take this information and you can better understand your mate. And I just think this can be very, very helpful for everybody. So with no further ado, let's get with it, man. It's Dr. Torre. Let's get with it.
Let's get it. Well, thank you again for having me. I'm enjoying the content that we're bringing. I think that it's so vital. I think especially right now where the climate we're in with the politics and everything. And, I'm seeing so many posts right now about historical trauma, black racism, everything just about us. It's interesting. With the country going through what it's going through and the DEI and all of that, there are so many other minorities in this country, but it seems like everything is always directed to the black community. And so I just feel like we're in this place. I heard somebody poise it as a black renaissance happening again. And I just want to be able to put out energy and information to help people get a little bit more in alignment with what we need moving forward.
Well, yep. I've often said, and this is that we can go down that rabbit hole very deep because for the record, most of us don't know who we are.
Yeah.
Believe me, and we're going spiritual here. Widows people. And with that, I'm just going to leave it there because I can go deep on that. But, and I really do think that's the reason why some of the things the trauma that has been inflicted on us from a lot of different groups, but especially here in America, is due to the fact that we are a certain people.
Yeah.
But we just don't happen to know that.
Not fully, but I do feel like that message is being more and more rendered as well.
And I think that's the reason why some of the things are happening the way they are, because the information is coming out. The DNA doesn't lie.
Yep.
So with that being said, let's get into it. I mean, what are some of your thoughts? Because I want to hear from you as a black woman who has a husband at home, and you don't have any sons, but I want to hear how I want you to present some things to me, and I want to bounce some stuff back to you.
Well, first and foremost, like I feel like in our community, there is this dissension between black men and black women. Like there is this huge barrier that's keeping us from getting to this place of cohesion and understanding. And in my opinion, now I do have clinical background training, but I'm also a black woman in the United States. I feel like this is all part of the design.
Yes.
You know, I feel like we have had a lot of seeds planted into us that have now germinated and provided disarray in our communities.
Absolutely.
Okay. So when we talk about black men and where they are right now, and black women, listen, I hope that you can hear this and receive this. You know, I don't love anything more than black women. Let's just be clear, except for the Lord. I don't love nothing more than black women, but I love black men too. And I feel like we will never get to this other place of cohesion and unity and be able to live out these dreams that we have if we don't come together and understand some things. Yes. So what I want to really do is bring light to what black men have been through and what it takes to be a black man in this country, right? So when I look at it from my client's perspective, from my upbringing and what I see in the street, I'm elated at the fact that black men are finally able to tell their truth. Right. So black men have been traumatized to the point when we talk about, from a community standpoint, we talk about healthcare, when we talk about employment, finances, when we talk about just their ability to feel safe on the street.
Right.
There is a constant understanding that I'm looked at as a threat.
Yep.
I'm looked at as not enough.
That's right.
And I am public enemy number one.
All at the same damn time.
At the same damn time.
Right.
When I started dating my husband's a big man.
Yep, I was about to say that.
Big black guy.
Yep.
I was raised, my brother's a big man, but my brother is a light complected man.
Right.
I hadn't been around a lot of dark complected men of his stature and his size. Right. And one of the conversations he and I had when we first started dating was that he does not make eye contact a lot of times around women when he first comes in a room with women. And I asked him, I said, why? He said, because it intimidates them. He said, and when you're my size and when you're growing up, you're taught, he said, if you have any sense and you want to survive, to be a little bit more submissive, to be a little bit more comfortable and laid back rather than looking people dead in the face.
So you're not presumed as a threat.
You're not presumed as a threat. That you're easygoing, that people will accept you.
Yes.
I don't think until George Floyd did we really understand what black men really deal with. I mean, we've had multiple killings, lynchings, hangings, all of that. But I don't think until George Floyd happened, the atmosphere was ready to really accept that black men are treated unfairly. From a statistics perspective, 2.9 times black men are threatened by police than non-black men, okay? 5.5 times black men are more likely to be in prison than white men.
For the same crime.
Same crime.
Right.
Same crime.
That's right.
So when you start looking at just how the deck is stacked,
right.
How the cards are stacked,
right.
Black men know coming here. To hear people that are not black be surprised about the police talk that parents have to give kids once they become mobile and moving in and out of the house without the parent, that's what we deal with.
That's
and
right.
So when you think about that, the only thing I've learned more than anything is that black men have learned to keep their mouth closed.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean?
Man.
Keeping your mouth closed. That means you hide from everything.
Yeah. Yes. Sad. I can go.
Go. I mean, I want to hear what you have to say about
said.
that. I mean, from the point of being at home to the point of being in school to the point of being in the military. How have you had to present in order for people to see you? And do you even think still they see you?
Okay. Let me start from here. The representation that you gave of your husband, who, yes, he's a larger black man. He's tall and he has broad shoulders. So he's a big guy. And he's dark. And he's bald. He wasn't always bald, but now he's bald. My situation is a little different because I'm a short man. I'm a short man, but I'm not a small man.
Right.
So I was taught a little different, okay? Because he's a large man, he was told to kind of look like he's not menacing.
Right.
I was taught, roll your shoulders back, have your shoulders back, your head up, and when you walk, make sure people hear you walk. This is what my mother taught me. This is what my father taught me. Now, maybe it would have been different if I were a big guy. I don't know. But you got to realize the dynamic in my home was probably far different than the dynamic in your husband's home.
Yeah.
My home was taught to, if the door is not open, you kick the door in.
Right.
I'm coming no matter what.
Right.
So my dynamic in my home is probably different than most homes. And I'm thankful for that. But it did make me into what I am. And some things are good and some things may not. But anyway, to answer your question. So in that aspect, I was taught a bit different. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then realized that my dad taught me to always own your own business, own your own. So I know plenty of guys are in the corporate world, right? That have to work under people and be an employee.
Right.
At whatever level. I know for a fact that they have to do this on the job. They have to be very careful about their tone. Like even how I'm talking right now, they can't talk like that. Mm-hmm. Because when I'm passionate about something, I'm aggressively talking about it. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if I'm angry, but I'm not. Yeah. It's just, and that's how my family dynamic was on my mother's side of the family. If you didn't know any better, if you walked in on my family on Thanksgiving on my mom's side of the family, you would have thought that there was a big fight going on and they're in there just getting their point over and having a good time. Everybody's over talking to each other, talking at the same time. It's almost chaotic. And I kind of learned that as well.
Right.
But anyway, so I was taught to be very confident in everywhere I go. I was told, you look a man in his eye. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I was not taught to not look down or around. I was taught to look a man in his eye and give a firm handshake with my shoulders rolled back and look at him. Mm-hmm. So I was taught differently. But again, two different dynamics. Mm-hmm. However, the fact still remains that I am a man of color. Mm-hmm. And the part I do want to add to the audience is when we're having this conversation, it's not just us talking about people who do not look like us that handle us a certain way. Mm-hmm. Let me make that very clear. Yeah. When we talked about the George Floyd scenario, whatever, we talk about, most people say, all right, here we go, racial, white cops, black man. No. Let me tell this one little story. You probably remember, Torre and I went to high school together. She was a year behind me. Yeah. Do you remember I had a black Audi 5000? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I had a black Audi 5000 in high school. And I would go pick up my friends from Douglas High School. I always had a bunch of girls that I would ride around. Because my dad would not allow me to have more than one other guy in the car. So myself and my friend Joseph Drake, would go over to Douglas and pick up our friends. And we're in this, and they loved it because they would be waiting out in front of Douglas High School. And I would roll up with my shiny black. If anybody know me, my cars are always black. Still to this day, I still rock all black everything. So I roll up with my shiny black Audi 5000, and I was a very preppy young man. I was prepped out, and we picked them up from school, and they were happy that everybody saw them getting this nice Audi. And we go off, and I'm just giving them a ride home. Well, we got pulled over by the police, by a person who looks like me. Mm-hmm. And he pulls us over. And just so happened, my dad had just bought the car. He bought the car from the auction. It was a 1980 model. This is in 1987, so it's 7 years old. And I just happened to still have the title in the car because he had just gotten the car from me. Police pulled us over. And when the police pulled us over, he yelled, stick your hand out of the car and unlock the car and get out on the ground. And he pulled his weapon out. Okay? He pulls his weapon out on me. We hadn't done anything. Okay? What are you doing with this car? He says. This is my car. I said, the title's in the glove box with my dad's name on it. Long story short, all of the time, it's not someone else that harasses us. I just have to say it. It's tough being a black man all the way around. One, I don't feel threatened when I'm in a community that doesn't look like me. Mm-hmm. In some cases. Yeah. Now, let's just clarify. When I go somewhere up in the mountains, I just came back from the mountains 2 weeks ago. I'm a weapons man. I'm heavily armed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Certain areas. But I'm telling you, in my own areas, a lot of times that's when I'm actually carrying.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, and we'll talk about that later, as to how we do one another.
That's still by design.
That's the biggest threat.
That's still by design.
Us, I know.
Yeah.
Chances are, if something happened to me, it would happen to me from someone who looks like me.
Right.
I'm a business owner, and I tell this to my staff all the time, and they take notice of this. Do you know who my biggest problem is as an employee? Who would you think?
Other black folks.
Another black man. Mm-hmm. It's not the black women in most cases. It's another black man. Because as soon as a black man shows up, first thing he wants to know, he wants to see me and he wants to start competing. He wants to start measuring up with me. And then some of them look at it because I look like them, that this is going to be a playground. That my business is, I don't take it serious. Or we can, because you look like me, I'm not going to take the job serious.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I talk about this almost every morning with my dad. Every morning my dad and I speak on the phone for about an hour and a half. And that's one of the things that we always touch on, how difficult it is being a black man. From my own peers, meaning other black men. I don't roll with a lot of black men, okay? And if I do, they're usually going to be substantially older than me. Mm-hmm. I don't really deal with too many guys my age. Mm-hmm. Because if you do, it's too much competition and it's too much mess. 2, our women don't understand us. They're in competition with us.
Tell me about that.
They become our adversary in a lot of cases. Mm. The people that you take care of and love. At some point it switches. And now you're in competition. And it's not just me. I've heard this from a lot of people.
Yeah. And that's not just black man, black. I think whenever that one person in the family ascends, the people in that house.
Oh, I see. I get it.
They flip. Because black women say the same thing about, I'm out here making money and he doesn't like that I'm doing this, or he doesn't like. Oh yeah, that's very, I don't think that's gender specific. I think that's just affluence.
Oh, well, that's good. That's a good topic because I didn't know. I thought it was just happening to the men. No. I'm going to tell you, I don't have a lot of problems from people who don't look like me. Now, again, my situation is a little different. I am a businessman. And in my business, it's a very conservative business. Okay? And I just happen to be raised to fit into that structure. I am a conservative guy. I don't have any tattoos. I don't have a crazy haircut. I pretty much fit a conservative image. Yeah. Which I think is very important when it comes to certain industries. Right. And how you're going to adapt and how you're going to matriculate through things in that industry. Okay? Other industries may be a little different,
I don't think so. Because even my husband is now in business for himself as well. Right. He's in a car game. Right. He's ex-military like you. Right. he says a lot of the same things because he does vintage cars and deals with a lot of high-end cars at this point now too.
Right.
The white men love him.
Right.
They have no problem with him at the car shows and stuff.
Right.
But the black guys that see what he's doing, or the black guys that are also trying to emulate what he's doing, that's where he gets the problems.
He gets the problem. It is very difficult being us. And this is one reason why I created Power Up Man. For you all who don't know, we have an organization by the name of Power Up Man. And what that organization is a safe place for men to come. We meet once a month, and we can come into a space and talk about the things that you normally can't talk about. Because we have been taught since we were little boys to not show emotion, to not be able to talk about things or even tap into your emotional side. Now, they may have changed now because things have changed.
A little bit.
But when I was younger, you weren't supposed to show any softness, and that would equate to having discussions about how you may feel.
Do you remember the first time that was told to you? Do you remember how that was conveyed?
It was conveyed when, say for instance, if I was crying, if I felt like I needed to cry, stop crying, boy. Suck up them tears. Don't cry. Be a little soldier. And I'm glad I was taught to be.
So let me ask you this though.
Tough, but I did have to learn later on in life that you do have to use your other emotions other than anger, because that's the one we always That's the one that men feel comfortable using. Yeah, that's the one you go to. That's your go-to. When you confused, you get angry. When you're hurt, you get angry. When you just don't know what to do, you get angry. That's your default emotion. But I've had to learn to use other ones.
But let me ask you this:
Yes.
Don't cry, boy. Did it come just from your dad or your mom and your dad?
Both.
I know, and that's the interesting thing that I think when dealing with clients and dealing with Black men, when I talk to them, the messaging is not just from men, and even in relationships. And I've heard Black women say, "Oh, he started crying. He was acting like a damn woman." And I'm like, "But didn't you say you wanted him to be open?
See?
Didn't you say you wanted him to expose how he truly felt? And you shut him down."
And do you know what that person will do? Now we're going down the rabbit hole.
You're going to go to another woman to get it.
No, well, that can happen too, but no. What happens in most cases when men do feel vulnerable enough with someone, and if it's their mate, their wife, their person they're in a relationship with, and you tell them some things and you show them your vulnerable side, right? Something that traumatized you, something that went on, something that you struggle with, right? Or whatever that may be. The problem with that is the woman will weaponize themselves with it. Point.
Here we go.
If you want to lose your guy emotionally, if he in fact opened up to you with an emotional scenario, whether it happened to them as a child or there's something that they're dealing with currently, don't ever in the heat of the moment weaponize yourself and use your tongue against that person with that item that they discuss with you. They may be around, they may stay, but you just laid another road. You just built a wall. And that person will probably never, ever, ever, ever open up to you again. Do you realize what men consider love? You can say you love me all day. But I'm going to tell you what we.
Respect.
And
it's biblical. That's biblical.
You can tell me you love me all day. But if you're disrespectful and you disrespect me.
Because men see respect as what?
if you respect me, that's one way you can say you love me. Look, the one thing that you want from your mate, from like your children and your mate, the people that you're taking care of.
Yeah.
That's one place that you think you should get some respect.
Right.
Right?
But what about when you've been disrespectful? What about when you've been disrespectful? And
that's something different.
And the heat is on.
Well, that's different. That's something different.
Okay. How is it different though? So
No. I mean,
what happens a lot of times?
If you're being disrespectful, then you would probably get some disrespect back.
Okay.
But there are limits to this thing.
That's what I thought was going. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah, like
Now,
there's ways of having discussions.
So you think
you can have an argument without just getting downright disrespect?
You think black women take it too far?
Do they? And it's not really their fault. I feel when a woman has not seen her parents interact in a certain way, like if you haven't seen the mother respect the father, even if they have an argument, a disagreement, but you just don't go but so far.
Right.
Calling each other out of each other's name, laying hands on people, all that stuff.
Right.
Like I know people that they never gone there in their relationship. Like that's some good stuff. Like never called each other out of their name, never cursed at each other. That's good stuff. Now I ain't saying I came from that. I see my parents get at it.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you the one thing I did see my parents do that I long for. My thing is, my parents had great communication. Like they could talk. They talked like they didn't even they had just met each other. Mm-hmm. We would drive from Atlanta to New Jersey, went to my grandmother's house on my mom's side. It's a 16-hour drive, and my mama would stay up with my dad, and she would talk to him. She may doze off to sleep for a little while, and she would wake up and say, "I dozed off." He's like, "Yeah, you was sleeping good," and then she was like, "How long have I been sleeping?" "Oh, you been sleeping about an hour." "What?" And then they get back in the conversation like they just met each other. They've been together. My mom was with my dad when she was 16. I mean, they've been together for years. And so that's the kind of thing I think you become a product of what you see. Like me, I like to have great conversation about a lot of different things, but that means whoever you're with, you got to kind of be on the same page with them though. Yeah. Because if not, the things that I'm interested in that I may want to talk about, you may think it's stupid or you may not want to talk about that.
Well, let me add something to that. With my clients today, I'm amazed at this whole. So most of my clients are under 45 years old. Okay. So I got a lot of millennials and I got a lot of Gen Z, right? Mm-hmm. I'm amazed at how this whole gender equality thing makes women think that they can say and do whatever they want to say and do once they're angry.
Yeah, right? And that's a pass. And it doesn't matter what you say when you're mad.
So back to the what if you're being disrespectful, right?
Right.
It's like all gloves are off. One of the things I was taught as a young woman, having old school parents, my mother always said, if you want a man to perform a certain way, there's certain things you don't say and do regardless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She goes, you don't say certain things about him that makes him feel less than a man, right? Well, because we've gotten into this whole thing about toxic masculinity and men have to be as balanced or emotionally available as women, I think these younger people really think, well, if you get vile with your mouth, I get vile with mine. There has to be somebody that takes the higher road.
Right.
But unfortunately, the higher road, I think, it's the messaging is, oh, you being submissive. No, I'm salvaging the relationship.
We need the feminine part of you.
Yes. Now tell me about that.
I don't need another dude in the house with me. I don't like dudes. Okay? I want a woman. I want to hear the sweet. I want somebody, when I come in, I'm upset. I want somebody to calm me down.
Yeah.
I want somebody to hear me out. Get me right back in the right. You're supposed to be my helpmeet.
Yeah. I agree.
You're supposed to be the person to be like, when I get out of order and I get all out of whack, you can be the one. You're the one person can reel me back in.
And ladies, let me tell y'all this. My grandmother told me this, and my mother told me this. It's not being submissive, being the neck. The husband is the head.
Right.
The wife is the neck.
Right.
You get to determine how he turns
That's right.
his head, right? But for some reason, we don't want to be two. We think that we have to be one. Well, we can be one sometimes in certain situations when it comes to tending to the house. When it comes to even if you're better at paying bills than your man, then
Right.
you might be the lead in that, right? You figure out what your strengths are. That's one of the things I work with couples in. What are your strengths? What are your limitations? Figure out how that works.
That's right.
But that mindset of rulership, which I think goes back again to by design.
Right.
Because we've been pitted against each other a very long time. You know, now that women make as much or more money than men, the automatic thought is like black men to white men. Oh, I'm the man now. You're going to treat me this way. Women think that same way with making money. We're equal. I make as much money as you. So you're going to treat me just like you want me to be treated.
Care about your money.
And that's important. That's an important message too.
Most dudes, most real alpha dudes, old school dudes who take care of the business. When I was dating, when I was single, my friends used to get mad at me because they didn't think that I picked the right women to date. They wanted me to go out and date. They were trying to introduce me to the doctors and the lawyers and all these high-powered women and stuff, right? And when I met some, and they were nice. But I'm going to be honest. They was like, man, you just want to be Captain Saver. Well, in fact, I did kind of want to be. Because you know why?
You want to be a hero.
I want to be a superhero. Look, part of me being a man is when you hook up with me, your whole life changed. Nope. If you're a real man, when you walk into a room, the atmosphere is supposed to change.
That's right. That's right.
You don't have to say a word. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be seen. The fact of the matter that you came into a space.
Yes.
And you're an asset. Now, whether the assets are utilized or not in that room remains to be found out. However, you're a resourceful person.
Right.
For instance, if I walk into a room, most people who know me, I can be security. Something happens, active shooter, somebody get out of order, I can hold my own. And I can protect. Right?
Right.
So that's an asset. If you're a great mind, you're an innovative thinker, if you walk into a room, whether that's being tapped into or not, it's still available.
Right.
So that atmosphere should change when you walk in the room. So in my life, even when I was a young man, just a young man in the Air Force or whatever, if I didn't feel that I could impact a person's life when they hook up with me, then what's the use? Like, if I'm gone, you should really know that Keith is gone. Like, and when I show
should be
up,
apparent.
when I'm there, oh man, I've hooked up with one. My whole situation is changing.
Yeah.
I'm old school though. I was taught
Right.
about old school, hard-working men. And I said it once and I said it before. My family dynamic is a little different than yours. Not a lot of education in my past high school. Most of the men that I grew up around and my dad had me around all fit the same scenario. Hard-working guys, know the Lord, take care of their families no matter what.
Right.
Period. No whole bunch of drinking, no whole bunch of partying, no whole bunch of hanging in the streets. These dudes took care of their business. Either they own business or they work jobs. I talk about some of them. I've talked about them on the shows. And I'm thankful to my parents to have certain kind of men that I saw and could emulate as a child. Because I paid very close attention to the men that were around. And my dad kept me with him a lot. So I wasn't around a lot of kids. I was around grown men, right? So I listened to how grown men talked, what they did, what their mannerisms were. And that taught me how to be a man.
Let me ask you something. Why do you think the men that you were around and in your family were not as heavily impacted by historical trauma like other black families or black men?
I think the men on my my uncles on my mother's side of the family, they moved from the country and they lived in Newark, New Jersey. That's where I was born. Mm-hmm. So, okay, my grandmother, there was 2 sets of kids. My grandmother was first married, and he got sick and passed away. And then she had babies by, like, my mom and like 4 of her other siblings by another gentleman, but they never got married, right? So there's 2 different dads. But grandma was there with all of them. Now, she had so many of them that the grown ones were having babies and she was still having babies. Mm-hmm. So my mom had some nieces that are her age, and they grew up like sisters. Right.
That happened in my mom's family too.
But so they were up there. They were traumatized by, like, my mom's brothers, by the gentleman that wasn't married to my grandma. That he wasn't really in their life because they moved to New Jersey and he still lived in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And he didn't really help out and do anything for them, right? So, okay, that's some of that trauma, right? But somehow or another, the other brothers and the brother-in-laws that was married to their older sisters, they all came from the same dynamic and they all helped one another.
They had a community,
kind of like the Spanish and the other people do. The Latinos do now, and some of the other races, like they came up north, they got a house or whatever, and then they would bring their brothers and sisters up, and they would go back to the country and get them. My mom said she remembers they was in a big Cadillac or whatever, and she said she don't know how they all fitted in the car. Went to the country. Her older brother came back to get her mother and her little brothers and sisters, and she was like, I don't even know how we all fit in that car. Mm-hmm. And they went up north and they went and moved into the house all together until everybody got on their feet, and then they would branch out. But I think that's probably what happened because they had the good work ethic back then.
They stuck. The main thing you said was they stuck together.
They stuck together.
But the design after a certain point in time was to make us despair. Separate. So when welfare started, when men came back 70s. From the military, they were doing drugs, all the things that happened to black men after Korean War and Vietnam era. And so then welfare, they put the black man out, the woman had to stay. All of those things made us start to secretly hate each other.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The way men were treated when they came back from war, right?
Yes.
Couldn't get jobs. And then they started really employing black women. Yes. And black women started going to college and started having jobs.
Right.
And so the point of it is there was an era in time when we collectively pulled our pieces and our resources together, right? Mm-hmm. And we thrived and we prospered.
That's right.
Right? And then there's been a time when the system set up and said, no. Separate them. And I will say this, and if any therapist wants to challenge me, you can challenge me, but here's the deal. Trauma is curable when you realize how resilient you are and you have support.
I believe that.
Remove the support and you don't get the attention and the time that you need to heal, the trauma doesn't heal.
Wow. It's an open wound with a scab. It can be torn off at any time.
At any time.
So that's what's going on. You got all of us walking around, and we call it unresolved hurt.
Unresolved
You
trauma.
have heard that. We call it unresolved hurt in our group, and in a lot of our episodes. We even had a couple episodes that was centered around unresolved hurt, which is basically another way of saying unresolved trauma. And that's what shapes us and makes us be who we are. The dysfunction comes from that, right? So, and again, when I say some of the things that men struggle with when it comes to our women, I again say I don't necessarily think it's all of their fault, because I don't think a lot of them even know any better.
Talking about women?
Yes.
Well,
there's some men who don't know. I was fortunate that I had a dad to show me how to be a man. What does that mean? You know, to me, what a man is? One, my dad always told me, don't ever agree to to have a household that you yourself can't pay for and take care. Your wife's revenue or her income should only be supplemental, meaning she can have a whole career. She can make whatever she want to make, but wherever you live, you better be able to pay for it. The home, your shelter, your food. And here in Georgia, my dad taught me at least one piece of transportation. Now, if your wife works and she wants to help with some of the children's stuff or some of the utilities or some of the extra stuff, that's what I saw in my household. So guess what I did? Same thing. That's why I don't care. That's why when my buddies wanted me to meet these high-powered women, that didn't feel good to me.
What did it feel like?
I mean, you would get with them, and they would all be on, oh, wow, we could do this and that. But I'm sitting there looking at them saying, well, you have a nasty house. You're an attorney, you fine and all, but your house is nasty.
We are not pulling any punches. Click the link below for part 2 of the trauma of the black man. And remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.
The Power Up with Keith Withrow show is sponsored by Motor Coach Consulting International. Excellence in ground transportation.